So just the arrows to go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know when I'm like running out of time, if you would. So I was very fortunate.
Time's up.
Back in the mid-90s to acquire for my little collection some parts through Sotheby's of an Albatros D.V. You know, I was very lucky years later to work on documenting the parts of the D.V.A here at the museum that were not used in the restoration, that were stored. You know, if you remember, a few years ago I did a presentation, 2011 I think, on the fuselage and the museum's D.V.A. Well, the parts that I acquired from Sotheby's in the 90s are from a D.V. And this is some of them right there. If you've seen Ray Ramel's Windsock data file 152 on the Albatros, you've probably seen these pictures already because Ray ran them in that edition. This is the left cabane strut. Well, they actually got these. It's actually two collections. I got a collection through Sotheby's in the 90s, and then a good friend of mine, Marco Fernandez Sumero, in Ghent, Belgium, he acquired the other part of the collection. And Marco and I ended up spending a few years saying, I want your part, and so forth. And I outlasted him, and he let me acquire his part. It's had its mine. But they're all go back to the original person who, a Belgian gentleman who collected them. And we surmise he collected them along with the Rumpler, which you're probably very familiar with. That Marco, original Rumpler C4 that Marco also had, and eventually sold and is being restored by Pohlmann and Meyerhofer in Austria. And that Rumpler is, I think, going to go, I don't know where it's going to end up. Actually, it is Wolfo. If you know Wolfo, his Josta 11 website. I think it's Wolfo's Rumpler C4. Anyway, Marco was the source of that and part of the Albatros D.V.s. So this is a cabane strut. I did for a while know a lot about Albatros in the 90s. I learned a great deal and realized that the parts of the upper wing struts that you see here, doing it the wrong way, gives you a better, the thickness of these spars on the upper wing denote a D.V. A D.V.A had strengthened spars. So it's a big deal, actually, because by strengthening the spars, they had to remake these fittings, these compression bar and attachment fittings on the top wing, because they wouldn't fit the old spars when they went to the D.V.A. Obviously, these parts are from a Wreckage. You can see this is bent. That's the lower left wing spar. And that sort of gives you a better idea of how the cabane strut attaches to the wing. One of the really neat things is that the upper wing on the Albatros D.V and D.V.A have these compression bars that go across, go right into that socket. And there, you can see here, this is obviously the front spar, because it's cantilevered up like that. They have a wonderful mechanism here that you simply pull out, and it's spring-loaded. You pull out to remove the upper wing from the cabane strut. I know cabane strut is not really the word we're supposed to use. It's been argued by several people that although it is a French word, like empennage and fuselage and so forth, it's not really a cabane strut, but that's kind of the vernacular use of the word. I was trying to figure out, once I realized it was a D.V, not a 5A, that of the 2,500 D.V and 5A that were manufactured, by knowing it's a D.V, that sort of reduces the number of aircraft you have to wonder it is. I ultimately, with some advice from some people here at the museum, I ultimately was able to take apart some of these pieces. And I found right stuck here between this fitting and the spar had been wrapped with 5-color lozenge printed fabric. So if you're talking about a D5, again, that's between here and here. And they apparently wrapped the spar. So when you're talking about lozenge fabric, this is the red and green. I know those are not the specific colors, but knowing that where they were in front of the front spar and the rear spar of the upper wing, it was possible to locate the pattern. And there's only one way that the pattern would really work for it to come under this spar and under that spar. This is the spar for the lower left wing with a compression bar. And here's the attachment fitting to the fuselage. This bolt slides out and allows you to take the entire lower wing off very easily. That, if you're familiar with the D5 versus 5A controversy, with the solidity of the wing, there it's separated from the fuselage. You know that there were some in the German Air Force that thought that this little tube, metal tube, which fits here into the spar, and then this bolt goes through, it limited the grip of the bolt going through, and it was a fundamental bad design. This bolt going through this metal tube, which gets slid through here, which is how this gets attached to the lower wing, or to the lower wing gets attached to the fuselage. Paul Strala, who I'm sure you're familiar with, he had the theory, he looked actually at the wreckage of Nolte's machine, and he had the theory that at times he said he thought it was sabotage of the lower wings, that somehow they were being sabotaged in the factory. He also had the belief that the design was so poorly done to put it in the tube, which restricted the grip when the bolt came onto this, that somehow was a design flaw that was done on purpose. And if you're interested in that whole controversy, I can give you the source material on that. These are the rear leg fittings, right and left, that attach the landing gear to the fuselage. Here you can see them, different perspective. This is looking at the underside of the fitting, and here you can see that the pattern on this one particular aircraft was black and green. That was some sort of pattern. I don't know what the whole pattern was. That's simply the left rear seat rail broken off during the wreckage of the aircraft. That's bulkhead 6 or 7. I don't know why it's painted green. I have a feeling that the Belgian gentleman who was holding on to these parts started to try to restore them, and that he repainted that, because that's not a Albatros factory color. That's the rudder. Not a great photo. You can see it's damaged here, and actually when you see it like this, you can see it's heavily bent. This is a wonderful horn down here that allows the cables to move the rudder. The one piece that I did not get in Marco's and my back and forth in the late 90s and early 2000 about who was going to give the half of the collection to the other person. Marco just got rid of that radiator, so I hope someday to find that radiator, because it goes with the record. With Frank Arrow's help, if you remember, Frank gave us the library here. With Frank's help, I got some drawings of the D5 that he and Bob Woe did. Bob did the drawings of the Albatros down in Australia. And I got them blown up, and I was able to create cutouts and plywood. You'll see why I did this. I wasn't trying to build an Albatros D5. I was trying to figure out how these parts attach to the aircraft. Those who've actually built D5s have looked at some, mine are cut out with a little jigsaw, and I'm not really a carpenter. So here's the, here's a bulkhead, another bulkhead, longeron, and then the original part attached to see how this all would fit. And then the metal part put back over it. There you see the leg fitting there. And I didn't build the whole thing. This was early in my marriage. My wife was extremely tolerant. And that's the part of the fuselage I built. Modern fuselage, original parts here, just to see how they all fit on. I had a lot of carefree time back then. It's before we had little girls in our family. And so that's how they would fit. And then, probably, if you've been on the Aerodrome forum, you've seen this years ago. I did a multi-day thing where I showed this. So there's the fuselage I built in our dining room. And here are the original things. She's a lovely woman.
You said she was tolerant.
It turned out, it actually was amazing. She wanted to paint the dining room, living room, whatever, it goes back and forth, this incredible green color, and it's perfect for having
Fuselage.
German fabric on the wall, which you can see that. She allowed me to put the German fabric, the lozenge fabric, framed on the wall. I couldn't believe it, but she liked the design. She didn't care about old airplanes, but she liked the design. So I put this together, and I'm just sort of showing you how it kind of would look. I built a little stand for it. Again, it's all just to see how these parts fit. And rotating it around, that's where you see that part of the fuselage that I made, and then I stop at that point. It's got to build a little stand for it. And then here's the rudder in relationship to it.
Is that the propeller up top?
Yep. This whole fuselage is now hanging up here in our living room. I hoisted it up, and it sits up there in the ceiling, and my wife likes it because it looks like a sculpture.
With the propeller.
And you can see some of those ends. It's all now painted black, but I used to have all of this out here like this because she liked the colors. She couldn't care less about old airplanes, but she liked the colors. That's it. That's my email address.